Hi, I'm Greg Anderson. Here on Cape Cod, the pandemic has been crippling. It's pretty scary. We know that many businesses are deeply wounded by the coronavirus. Well, what do we do when we're hunkered down at home? Well, many of us watch TV, but the TV industry is, in many ways, shut down as well. Or is it? This got me thinking, what if your favorite television show didn't come back because it couldn't shoot on location and the studios were closed? How do you watch contestants on The Price is Right spin that wheel wearing a mask and gloves? How is the television industry sorting this out, and what does it mean to us as viewers? Well, I have decided to go to the source. From his home in Los Angeles, California, Vin Di Bona, television producer of the longest running primetime entertainment show on ABC, America's Funniest Home Videos. That's today's takeaway. I am absolutely honored and thrilled to have Vin Di Bona join me. Welcome to Cape Cod, Vin. You're a New
It's
England
so great
guy?
to be here. Thanks for the invite. I really appreciate this. We've actually been pretty busy
Yeah,
during the past 7 or 8 weeks.
yeah.
This is a really relaxing Friday, so it's perfect to do this and begin the weekend on the Cape.
Good. Excellent. Excellent. And you're from Rhode Island.
I am
So New
originally
England
from
is
Cranston, and now I have a home have had a home in Newport since 1970.
excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Let me just ask you first, your family's healthy, safe, everyone is
Everybody's good.
good.
Cautious,
Yeah.
very cautious.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to go run on the beach. I'm not ready to be relaxed yet.
Yeah.
As is my daughter Cara, who you know. And we're wearing masks and we're wearing gloves. And when we go out, we're cautious just to make a quick, brief trip and then back to the house. It's
Yeah.
a bit of a drag, but we're alive.
Yeah.
And, I'm 76, so I fall in that bucket. So I've got to be very protective and very cautious.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. I want to really understand how your production company. I mean, you have two production companies.
Yes.
So you have a lot of production that you're pumping out in the context of AFV. You were kind enough to have me as a guest about 6 years ago, watching you in the control room and seeing the stage. And man, there is energy. There is energy
Yeah.
in the control room, on the
Yeah.
stage with the
Yeah.
host. It's loud. It's a ton of energy. And being foreign to that setting, I was just soaking it in. But now I'm thinking, you're producing from home. There was a point at which you said, okay, we need to pivot, and that energy is gone. How has that affected you, just from a producer perspective, to still put things out but not have that environment around you?
Well, the energy actually has intensified. ABC called me and said, Vin, we think it might be a good idea to explore what's happening to folks at home that has levity, hilarity, sensitivity. And so we all got together. We looked at libraries that we wanted to use. We actually bought most of the footage. We have a special that airs Sunday night on the 17th, leading into Idol, the finale of Idol. So it's a perfect lead-in for us. It's our normal time slot, but it's a big night for ABC.
Yeah.
And so we started looking at clips that we had and clips that we were about to purchase, and we realized, yeah, there's definitely a show there. But we learned how on Zoom to put together producers and editors and sound mixers and create a show. We were able to, I think it was actually meetings, some meetings and some Zoom, both platforms,
Mm-hmm.
where we could have three of us as producers, executive producers, building the show from clips that we had seen that were ingested into the library. We could see the clip. We could scan all the clips in the library. We could see each other. And we could also, almost every show is built with 3x5 cards. On the card is the name of the clip, with the number of the clip. And so you start tacking them up on boards, and that's the way you build a show. Well, there's actually an app that lets you do that. You type it out each card, and then you can move stuff around, act one, or maybe act six. Oh, this should flip with this. So we were doing that, and we were actually building the show. And so we built it on paper. Our editor, Scott Riddle, we have three Scotts on staff.
Yeah, sure.
Was able to take all the clips. He would build the reel. Michelle Nassaway and Rob Katz, who was working with us on this as an additional executive producer, we actually put the show together on 2 days on a weekend. Gave it to Scott. He edited it on a Sunday. We screened it on a Monday, gave him our fixes, submitted it to the network for their approval and for broadcast standards approval, got that approved on that same Monday, and delivered the show and mixed the show on Monday night and delivered it on Tuesday.
It's
a lot of work. It wasn't, we were sitting at the computer for well on to 6, 7, 8 hours at a stretch.
Yeah. How did you, that just seems like a remarkable amount of time, not just to do it, but to create the process while you're doing it.
Well, clips come in groups, There were funny haircuts. There were people who did interesting things in the house. There were little song snippets. One of my favorites, there's a woman sitting at a desk, sitting at her dinette table. In the background, you can see kids running in the background. And the music is Sweet Caroline. And for the bump, 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 she bangs her head 3 times against the table. I love that clip. So these were, and then there were people playing golf inside. Great golf shots, a lot of exercising. And then people built these crazy rigs outside where they have kids in little car seats, and they would string them on and sort of like a wild cable ride. People are just amazing.
So the time frame from, say, March, we all started to go into, staying from home. March to mid-May, say this was last week that you were doing this, or
right.
That's a very short period of time for people to be sending things in, for you to find it, catalog it, and then bring it to.
We were actually receiving clips, but we were also going outside of our library and buying clips. So clips that were amassed by several other companies, we just bought them. We knew that, we could fill the slot. It actually cost more money to do this show than the normal studio show because we had to spend all the money on the clips and the music.
No kidding.
So the music clearance on Sweet Caroline for 8 seconds was $25,000. But I had to have that clip. I needed that clip.
You needed.
Now, listen, we didn't do that, 8 times over on the show because that would have been way too much.
Yeah.
But there were certain clips that the music is Americana, and that's what you got to do.
So if somebody has a song in a video that they send to you, in order for you to run it, you have to get clearance
or replace it.
Or replace it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Interesting.
And that's tricky because sometimes there's sound on tape where somebody say, "Hey, Daddy," or "Mommy, look at this," and if you replace the music, you lose that SOT.
Yeah.
So you have to work around that.
Right. How was it for your host, for Alfonso,
He went back to film school. We sent him an iPhone with a separate, very directional microphone. We were on a Zoom call with all the executives and broadcast standards people, and us. And our Zoom call fed into his laptop, and his picture on the laptop was not his face. It was him shooting with his camera. So we're watching him shoot with his camera on our Zoom call. So I was able to direct him. But he was props. He did his own makeup. He did his own lighting. And we had a tripod for him. But we got it done.
So you just sent that equipment to him, whatever he needed?
Because he has kids in the house, and he didn't want anybody in the house.
Yeah, yeah.
And certainly we have to respect that.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: when it comes to putting a show together, there's so much involved, and it's so funny you mentioned the cards on the wall, because I kind of envisioned that that's what it was like. Literally, this must have been a big departure for you to go Zoom or virtual. But what were the big surprises to you? I mean, you've been producing the show for 31 years. What were some major takeaways that you had from watching your team pull this off?
Good question. I suppose it was the diligence of, you look at clips. The three of us looked at all the clips, and we rated them. Each of us rated the clips. So we saw what each other of us thought. We were all pretty close on most of the clips. Funny is funny. It's not funny. It's not funny.
Right.
Sometimes we put a question mark, or we put music clearance. But it was interesting to see how homogenous we were in our choices of what was funny. Then, of course, you have this great favorite clip, and it won't clear. You can't get the rights to it. And that came right down to a day before we were about to edit the show. We lost 5 major clips in the show.
What were the reasons?
Corporate decisions, music clearance, can't find the person who shot the video or who's in the video to get a release from them. These are we run across this all the time, except that most of the cases we have a month to clear it.
Yeah.
We were trying to clear stuff in 2 and 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was the big difference.
And what a team you have. I mean, you must.
Well, I had all the social media department too, of which there are about 55 people. They were out scouring every single source that they could find, building this library that we would screen. It would be the middle of the afternoon, and 10 more clips would come in. We'd run to the computer, screen the clips, rate them, and then we'd call each other as we were starting to build things.
Yeah. So take me back to mid-March or whenever it was that you as the top guy at Vin Di Bona Productions says, "Hey guys, we got to do this differently. We're not going to be in the studio. We got to go in a whole different direction."
Well, just prior to that, we did 2 of our award shows, our finales, the day before the lockdown happened.
Oh, wow.
And we had a complete crew, but we all made the decision not to have anybody in the studio. In fact, now when our show airs, and there's a studio, and it's a repeat, we put the date taped in February, so that people know that we weren't violating that very important distancing issue.
Right.
But so
Right.
we finished that show without an audience just the day before. And then it was interesting to learn how to mix it. We had the studio, we had the crew laugh, which gave Al a sense of continuity, and we mixed the crew laughs in. Um, and then when the network called to say maybe we could do something, well, it was kind of like eating popcorn because it was just, yeah, we can do that. We could never knew. Well, how we get, yeah, we can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I have really been fascinated, as I had said in my email to you, that we have all been impacted. We know airlines and restaurants and the healthcare industry. Everybody has been impacted as a business, but we sit back while we're at home and we turn to you and what you do to make us smile and to
Yeah,
bring
thank you.
laughter. I mean, 31 years ago, Vin, did you think that you were going to be producing something in 31 years later but that was going to be so effective and important during a pandemic?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, we need
And it was
laughter.
also the same way during the recession.
Yeah,
Yeah, numbers just go up.
yeah,
Now it's um, the interesting thing is um, when the pandemic started, I was wondering. We get 3,500 clips sent to us a week.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I was going to ask
So
you
I
that.
was wondering, is that going to go down? Well, it didn't. It actually has gone up to 5,500 clips a week during the pandemic.
No kidding.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So these videos from quarantine, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
really that has now some legs for some additional shows. And
Well, yes, yeah, and what we're doing now is creating new categories as we tag all these clips. So everything is meta tagged,
yeah,
and so it's very important to get specific information on the meta tags, not just Dad has fun in the house. It's
yeah,
really much more highly labeled than that.
yeah. Let me ask you this: Fishbowl Worldwide Media. You have about 7 programs or seven productions that I saw
Mm-hmm.
that you're working on. One of them is Upload with Shaquille O'Neal. How has that business been for you during all of this?
It's been good. It hasn't been as good as AFV. I mean, AFV is an anomaly.
Yeah.
We have about 6 shows in development right now. We had a really great show on about making swimming pools, and it did very well for 3 years. And it was on Animal Planet, and Animal Planet decided, why are we doing pool shows? And so they put us on DIY, and then DIY that fell through. So stuff happens.
Yeah.
We are engaged in developing some really, really interesting shows. We have a show that we're working on how to solve cold cases, but it comes from the most unique perspective that's never been done before. I can't talk too much
I
about
know.
it.
I was going to say I can see
It's
watching your.
really, really special.
Hey,
Really.
I'm the guy that mows my lawn listening to podcasts on serial killers
Yeah.
and murderers. So
Yeah.
it's right up my alley. That's great. So you're.
Well, we've collected some of the smartest people in the world to help solve these cases. That's the way to go.
All right. I want to know when that's coming out. That sounds that's great. So you're still putting things through development. You're still moving forward. Obviously, you have access to people because of Zoom. Someone isn't traveling to.
I had a meeting this morning with Germany on doing video shows in Germany.
Yeah. Wow. Good for you. Let me ask you this, Vin. You are just having known of you longer than I've known you personally. I am an Emerson alum as you are, and I know that you are a mentor to many. You are really a pioneer on many fronts in the industry, especially with AFV.
Thank you.
Huge credit to all of the work that you've done. So you must have people of very significant stature in the entertainment industry and even in the television industry who look up to you, who turn to you, who are probably calling you or reaching out to you and saying, I'm stumped, or we're struggling. Can you give me an insight into what you are seeing as it relates to some of the challenges that the industry is facing right now as a result of this?
Well, every day is sort of a new challenge. And almost every week, even before the pandemic, something changes that makes what we do applicable to something else. We're fortunate to have a library of 2 million plus clips, all curated, not just clips, but all curated. We own them, we own the rights to them, and we can utilize them in different platforms. Mm-hmm. We built a social media department that is larger than the AFE department. Mm. And we have 5 platforms on that in that social media group that every day they chug out different programs, different montages, different collections of clips in all different aspects of everyday life. No one has the crystal ball anymore, even before the pandemic. So I think that, as you see, even in our society, in our government, not only does no one have the answer, very often no one has the right answer. And so I think as I look at my health, I think that we have to go cautiously, but we can't just sit, roll up a chair and watch TV, although I do that quite a bit these days.
Yeah, sure.
We have to stay on top of where the business is going and what the audiences are looking for.
Yeah. And a lot of people are binge watching now. This
Me
whole,
too.
Netflix.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is changing the way in which people are taking in their entertainment. We almost get frustrated when a show like Ozark comes out and they're going week by week with episodes.
I love those. Oh my God.
Isn't that fantastic?
It's an amazing. The cast is phenomenal.
Yes.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. Bateman is a natural.
Bateman is astounding. Yeah.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah.
But you watch Ozark come out or Homeland, and you're frustrated that I can't watch the whole season in 2 days.
That's right.
We're frustrated by that. Which is such a strange.
Yeah, I felt that with Homeland too.
Yeah.
And Homeland's last episode was astounding.
It was. How is that changing the way people in your end of the industry? We're the consumers. You're the producers. Does it change the way you make a decision about how you put out a season?
The networks, the broadcast networks, when challenged by a producer who doesn't know where he wants or she wants to bring their show, they will generally say, if you come to a broadcast network and your show is a hit, you're likely to get a 5 to 7 to 10 year run. If you go to Netflix, you're likely to get a 3-year run, 4 at the most. So make your choice. So that's the carrot that broadcast networks hold. Yeah. Now the big issue is streaming features, the same day it launches in a movie theater.
Yeah.
And it's a big challenge for both the movie theater and the distributors.
Yeah.
Some movie theaters won't run a Universal film because Universal put out um, an animated film last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I watched it with my wife and we loved it.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And it was, it's a big deal here about that.
Yeah. I think animation is also going to be, I mean, anyone can animate from their home.
Right.
I mean, that almost does not get interrupted. But in March, Kevin Bacon was shooting City on a Hill here in Boston.
Yeah.
Had to stop production
Yeah.
because everyone went home, which made me wonder, and maybe you have an answer to this. How does a show that's midway through its season that has to stop, what happens when it's ready to hit its air date? Do they run 5 of the 13 or do they hold off? What do you think happens in those situations?
Honestly, I think that people start to scramble and then they do reruns or double runs, and some stuff just never gets done. There's several shows that we were fortunate enough to finish, but several shows didn't.
Yeah.
And there is no answer. I mean, it's like we're planning to go back into studio in mid-July.
Mm-hmm.
And if that doesn't happen, we'll do the show from Al's house.
Wow. So
we're fortunate to have that flexibility. Most shows can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Is mid-July when you would normally go back into the studio?
No, mid-August.
Mid-August. Okay.
Yeah. But we're worried about, will there be a second wave?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in the senior living industry, we're facing the same thing. We're getting hammered with infection in the building, how to prevent it, and it gets to the point where you say it's going to come. We just need to now focus on how to mitigate it once it is in the building. And but every day, every week, there's a change. And then you look at, okay, well, if we start to move people back into our buildings, what's going to stop it down the road? Is it one case? Is it 10 cases? What is it? And so,
you hear the story about this fellow that infected, 40 or 80 people. I mean, holy moly, that's unthinkable.
It is. It is. Let's shift gears. Like I said earlier, you can't put 2 Emersonians together without talking about Emerson.
Yeah, true.
You graduated in '66, and then in '94 you received the honorary doctorate degree. Having been on the alumni board of directors back in the '90s, the name Vin Di Bona represents so much to the school and to students, and it's a wonderful contribution that you continue to give to the school. You're still co-vice chair
yes.
of the Emerson Board of Trustees. Can you give me an insight into what you're hearing as it relates to what the school is going through?
Well, we're meeting once a week.
Really?
The board is meeting once a week with Lee and a Zoom call that generally has between 18 and 23 or 4 board members. And it's the same issue. You can't have a plan A. You got to have a plan B and C and D. And so, as Lee said, we're running a college. We're also running a large hotel and a major restaurant.
Mm. Yeah.
So
on 2 coasts.
On 2 coasts, right. All food for thought, really.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? So
is it a I mean, it must be very challenging. I mean, for the president to be dealing with that, and then I mean, just looking at the trustees and the board of overseers.
It's now something else.
Advisors.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
A lot of really smart people. What's the tempo of those Zoom meetings?
Very thorough. A lot looking at budgets and how to economize, and yet make it the best education possible.
Yeah.
You know, as Lee said, the most important thing is the student.
Yeah.
I'm getting a Zoom call, but I won't take it.
Oh, that's okay.
So, you know, that everybody's really comes to the meeting with a sensibility of flexibility.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
keep going.
Are you concerned about what lays ahead for Emerson?
No, because we do something that most schools don't do. It's not just a school that depends on. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Hey, Rob, I'm on a Zoom call. I'll call. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. I'll call you back. Bye-bye. So the fellow that's doing this cold case
Yeah.
piece with us is the star of Bosch.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Excellent.
We're very excited about that.
Oh, that's great.
We were talking about Emerson, talking about.
We're just talking about, are you concerned about what lays ahead?
Oh, for Emerson.
Yeah.
Fortunately, you know, we have 10,000 applications for 800 slots.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. One of the things that we're doing now is looking at, for the fall especially, is if we were to open up, which we still don't know, and we're going to make that decision as we get toward the end of July. We're looking at the possibility of bringing more students in from the East Coast than from mid-America or the West Coast, because we don't know who's going to be afraid of flying or doesn't want to fly.
Yeah.
And all of those, we have to look at all of that stuff,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's a talk about a giant pegboard.
Wow.
This fall season certainly is it.
Yeah. As we wrap this up, and Vin, I really appreciate you taking the time. This really means a lot that you're doing that. I appreciate it. I remember when I was leaving school, and maybe when you were leaving Emerson, heading out to UCLA. You know, when you're young and full of energy, and Emerson students are just that, you're excited about what lays ahead. Well, right now, here in May, kids are graduating, hoping to go out and work for a company like yours, or get that news job or whatever. What do you say to those kids who are leaving and literally, trying to pick their head up and say, I'm going to do the best I can?
Well, I belong to a group of producer, writers, and directors called the Caucus, which is an advocate for fairness and anti-conglomeration, and the needs of the individual producer. But we all gave messages to the Emerson kids, and mine was a little different. I said, you must dream, but not just dream. It's important to make your dreams come true. And I said, you need to listen to criticism and accept sometimes criticism. It's good. And I feel that this generation, now bless them, they're headed into this S-storm. They're a little thin-skinned. And I said, I think it's a time, even as you go into this very tough area where no one's really sure, you got to toughen up. You got to really get that shell that covers you in a lot of areas, because A, it's a tough business, and B, it's a really tough world. And shrinking violets are not going to do it. It's not going to work. You've got to have the commitment, you've got to have the energy, but you've got to have some sense of toughness to make it through the next year or a couple of years. You know, when I left BZ, I wrote this letter to KABC, NBC, CBS, and PBS. And the letter was this: my name is Vin Di Bona. I'm the best producer director in Boston. My tape is great, and my resume is not bullshit. If you're interested, so am I. I got a letter back from everybody.
Oh my gosh.
And I got meetings with everybody. And I hadn't moved there yet, but I wanted to see what the reaction would be. And I made friends, and a year later, I moved back. Now, it took me 9 months before I got my first job. And every day, well, I shouldn't say every day, at least 3 days a week, if I didn't have 2 or 3 meetings each day, I felt that I wasn't working toward my career. And as it happened, many of those interviews that I had over that 9 months of not working, I wound up working for over the next 10 or 15 years before I started my own company.
Yeah.
So you really have to have a directive and believe in it. You know, the first show I sold was Animal Crack-Ups. It was a game show about animals, and the format and the footage came from Tokyo. I pitched that show 136 times.
Dear Lord.
And I sold it to my first boss from WBZ, who was now running ABC Children's Television.
Oh, wow.
But I pitched it because it was Japanese. Nobody understood that it was funny animal footage, you know. There was a Japanese woman on the panel, you know. I said, imagine that Japanese woman, but supposing that's Betty White. And my one executive friend got it, and I sold it. Now, I sold home videos in 5 minutes, one pitch.
Really?
Yeah.
To whom? Who was that?
Hank Cohen at ABC.
No kidding.
So those are the benchmarks, 136 pitches, one pitch.
Wow.
In 4 minutes, he turned to me and he said, we're going to buy this show.
Awesome.
So that's what you have to.
You know, I have watched many interviews that you have done on television, and I love listening to you. I love listening to you talk about the industry and your take on things. And when I am listening to you now, and I'm thinking, I really hope that Emerson students of the future and those who are juniors and seniors and thinking what's next, that they hear this, because you really do speak about resiliency, and resiliency is something that's very hard to forecast. What does it look like? I can't touch that. But when you believe in yourself and you end up producing things and careers like you've done.
Well, that animal show, you know, I had a reel from Tokyo, and I had voiceovers, and, you know, I'd bring it around and people would laugh out loud. So I knew I had something.
Yeah.
It's just, they didn't. I pitched the show actually to one person 3 times. She said, I know there's something funny here, but I don't know quite what it is. So it's, now, if you have a product that you pitch 136 times and it's a dog, well, then that's your fault. You know?
Right, exactly. Hey, have you ever pitched a dog?
I worked on a dog once.
Yeah.
And I knew it was a dog when I started, and it was a dog all the way through, and it was a piece of crap when we finished it. Well, and that a really wonderful Emersonian who wound up ahead of production development at Westinghouse. Now, Chet Collier.
Okay.
said, you know, if you have a piece of dog crap and you put it in a box and you put really beautiful wrapping paper on it and a bow, do you know what you have? A piece of dog crap in a box with a piece of paper and a bow.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Vin Di Bona, I am, again, I'm so grateful that you took the
Oh,
time
my pleasure.
to talk. I hope I get a chance to see you, arm tap, whatever we got to do. But it is
We'll have
really
some.
been,
We'll have some chowder on the Cape.
let's have some chowder on the Cape, or we'll get on the Newport and we'll have a glass
Yes,
of wine down there.
and a good lobster salad roll.
You are on. It's on me, okay?
Deal, deal.
Hey, Vin, thank you so much. It is wonderful to see you.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you. All right.
Have a great weekend.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye-bye. What a great look inside an industry we don't really get to see all that often. Thank you so much, Vin Di Bona. And thank you, Sandwich Community Television, for helping us put together this show, really trying to shine a light onto something different and bring some smiles to people during a really challenging time. I'm Greg Anderson. I'll see you soon.